y minute 35 na los Turingohan is back from recess. Minority Leader, you are recognized.
Sujus Masi, Madam Speaker, and I was able to speak to both the author of that amendment as well as the author of the bill, and I think there was a compromise being made on the language, and so I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Anyone else on the KMT amendment? If not, are there any objections? Would you like to close? Senator Jackson.
Sanamaasi Maskahalu. So it was a very productive break, and we were able to look at the revised amendment by legal, and it covers my concerns, so I will withdraw my amendment.
On the motion to withdraw, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Anyone else on the main motion? If not, Senator Lee, I understand you have an amendment, and for the closing.
Sujus Masi, Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if legal has had the opportunity to upload this amendment, but it would be in the Google Drive SB 340 FARBL L17P2 new.
Go ahead and read it. Page 2, line 17.
I apologize. It's page 2, lines 15 through 21. And so for the benefit of my colleagues and the public, for the purposes of this section, the term eligible individual means any individual other than A, any individual employed by the government of Guam or the federal government, and then there's new language, at any time during the tax year 2020. B, any individual who retired from the government of Guam or the federal government and was employed by the government of Guam or the federal government at any time during the tax year 2020. C, any non-resident alien. D, any deceased individual. Or E, an estate or trust. And also, Madam Speaker, to allow legal counsel to make technical corrections to include conforming amendments to Exhibit A. And so I believe that this amendment combines some of the concerns that were raised by other members of this body, and I want to thank them for their input, as well as our legal counsel for identifying the proper section to make these amendments, and just to be sure that we're very clear about who the eligible individuals would be. Sujus Masi.
On the amendment, anyone wishing to speak? Senator Chulai, you are recognized.
So I just want to thank the sponsor for this amendment. It does clarify the issues that we had raised earlier regarding, those who are employed and retirees. And so I'm hoping this very much clarifies that retirees, if that's your only income, you're not employed with the government, you are going to be eligible for this benefit. Sujus Masi.
Thank you, Senator Therese. Anyone else on the amendment as proffered by Senator Lee? If not, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Lee, you still have the floor on the closing.
Sujus Masi, Madam Speaker, and thank you again to my colleagues and the panel of government experts for their ideas, for the information that was shared, and the information that was needed to make Bill 340-35 the best that it can be. Madam Speaker, the RISE Act allows the governor to transfer now up to $30 million from the general fund or appropriate federal appropriations to pay for direct financial assistance to our neediest families. And given our government's current cash challenges, I think that the best model to follow is one that grants the greatest flexibility for finding and using local dollars, and the one that we know has worked in the past. To address the elephant in the room, Madam Speaker, yes, this bill was set aside shortly after it was discussed on the floor. And that's because months ago, the governor heeded our calls to prioritize federal subsidies for direct financial assistance to our people. But as stated correctly by our DRT director, Ms. Daphne Shimizu, during this measure's public hearing, any application and disbursement period for Program Salapi has come and gone. And generally speaking, CARES money cannot be spent after 2020 ends. Madam Speaker, this bill is being revisited because we can see the writing on the wall. Unemployment benefits, which have saved tens of thousands of workers from financial disaster, may not be as robust as it is today. Our neediest people will need another round of assistance within the next year, likely within the next few months. And I ask our colleagues to heed the criticism that we felt in April from our struggling families, that we waited too long before planning, giving them much needed assistance. And this is our chance to do just that before 2021 comes. This assistance can help families buy groceries while their SNAP or welfare applications may be processed, or to save for balloon payments, for rent, for utilities, for loans. Madam Speaker, this bill will begin the process to help up to 30,000 families with an assistance check. And we were able to develop this model by standing by a decision to make GovGuam employees and federal government workers ineligible for this aid. And I understand the criticism that this isn't fair, but it also has not been fair that while our brothers and sisters in the private sector have been laid off, furloughed, and left to navigate a never-before-done unemployment program, we in the government of Guam and in the federal civil service have been sitting pretty. We've been getting, many of us, at least 100% of our pay this entire year. And as I said earlier, Madam Speaker, I think we who are in public service should really check our privilege and sit this one out. Madam Speaker, the RISE Act provides us an opportunity to proactively plan to provide for our families. And there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding the negotiations in Washington, D.C. over the next round of stimulus legislation, and we should be prepared. We should be prepared if they act, we should be prepared if they do not. But this bill will also be helpful even in the event that GovGuam receives a federal subsidy that allows for direct aid to island residents later in the fiscal year. That's because of the safety net that we can enact through Bill 340, a proactive plan GovGuam can complete in case our families can't afford to wait for the next wave of help from Washington, or to give the local government the ability to stand up a new federally funded assistance program. There's just so much we don't know, Madam Speaker. We don't know how much or for how long unemployment assistance will be given to Guam next year. We don't know how much Congress will approve for the potential next round of stimulus. But we do know that in some point in the next year, many on our island will feel the effects of our continued economic recession. We know that we didn't act soon enough to plan for the first wave of this pandemic, and we know that we have a chance to act before the challenges in the new year begin. And at this time, Madam Speaker, I move to place Bill 40-35 as substituted and further substituted on the floor to the voting file. Sidus Masi.
That's 340.
340-35 as substituted and further substituted on the floor, Madam Speaker. Sidus Masi.
On that motion, without any objection, motion carries. Colleagues, it's 5 o'clock right now. I'm going to go ahead and ask the Assistant Majority Leader to take an hour break, and we'll come back at 6 o'clock. Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Sana Maasi Maska Halu. I move that we recess until 6 p.m.
We are in recess till 6 p.m.